Hello and welcome back. Welcome back to J.P.s World of Wrestling. It seems like I've been gone for a while, but hasn't really been that long, but to me it seems like a long time. Well, today there's going to be a theme. Hmm? Hmm? Yes, that's right. Today's theme is Hulk Hogan and Hulkamania and my memories of Hulkamania. Obviously, Hulk Hogan is my favorite wrestler of all time, and in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion, he is the greatest wrestler of all time. And I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about it because Hulk Hogan is really what got me interested in wrestling to begin with. My first exposure to wrestling was back in 1986 when I saw Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling cartoon on TV, and it was the very next year I saw my first WWF wrestling match, which I now know was actually a six-man tag team match. And it was Hulk Hogan, Rowdy Roddy Piper, and Billy Jack Haynes on one side. And on the other side, I believe it was Adrian Adonis and Hercules, and I believe Mr. Wonderful, I think. I could be wrong. Or it might have been Cowboy Bob. I don't know. I know that Hulk Hogan and Piper and Billy Jack Haynes were on one team. I know this. Anyway, but yeah, Hulk Hogan to me was like the epitome of professional wrestling. Whenever I think of pro wrestling, Hulk Hogan is the first guy that comes to mind. And so I'm just going to take time to show you some of my Hulk Hogan stuff. And just, to me, Hulk's amazing. So, there's this, the Hulk Hogan LJN action figure. Now, as you all know, like I've mentioned on this channel before, I did not have this when I was a kid. In fact, I didn't have any of these when I was a kid. And I think I kind of missed out because these are just awesome. These are awesome action figures. And I wished that I had had some of these when I was a kid. But honestly, I didn't know what they were called. I knew they existed, but I didn't know what they were called. And if I would have told either of my parents what I wanted, they would have gone to the store confused. Like, I don't know what he wants. Anyway, Hulk Hogan's action figure, the LJN, probably, in my opinion, probably the greatest wrestling action figure of all time. This is back during the early stages of Hulkamania in the WWF. I think Hulk Hogan's Hulkamania, I think it was actually conceived in the AWA. Because I remember seeing an interview with Greg Gagne saying that how him and I think B. Brian Blair or something like that would tear Hulk Hogan's shirt off in the AW, and that's kind of where that started. And he had shirts that actually said Hulkamania in the AWA, so that's kind of where it started. But then in '83, he made his way back to the WWF after being gone for years because Vince McMahon Sr. fired him for being in Rocky III. But Vince McMahon Jr. took over the company and wanted him back, and he came back. And after Bob Backlund was beaten by the Iron Sheik, Hulk Hogan stepped in and beat the Iron Sheik in 1984 in Madison Square Garden to win that big green championship belt to become the WWF Heavyweight Champion. So from then it was off to the races. Like I said, when I caught up with it, these were still the in thing. These were still the action figures, but I didn't know about them. But I knew about these WWF Hasbro figures. That's right, WWF Hasbro. These were just amazing. I love these. Some of them, I know I've been a little cynical about some of them because the pose and all that, but honestly, these were just amazing action figures, and I love these to pieces. I couldn't get enough of these. Before these came along, I was all about Hot Wheels and toy cars. But then these came along and forget about those. I want these. So yeah, this was the third Hasbro figure that WWF came out with for Hulk Hogan. This one and the fourth one were both really good figures. The first two, not so much. But this one and the fourth one, amazing WWE figures. So I loved the Hasbro figures, and I loved Hulk Hogan's. These two Hasbro figures. But then after he left the WWF, he went to WCW. And I don't have his original San Francisco Toy Makers figure, and I don't have any of his Toy Biz figures either. But I do have this. This is the Mattel Retro of Hollywood Hogan. Of course, when he was in WCW, after a couple years, people started booing. And WCW didn't really know what to do to get the crowd excited about Hulkamania again. But over on the other channel, in the WWF, Stone Cold Steve Austin was really popular. And, he was, kind of playing the rebel. And, he was lighting the wrestling world on fire. Despite my feelings about him, I can't deny that Stone Cold Steve Austin was lighting the wrestling world on fire. And so WCW needed to come up with something. So they made Hulk Hogan a heel. Him, Hall, and Nash started the NWO. And they lit the wrestling world on fire. And actually, I don't think Stone Cold was even a thing until the NWO started. In fact, I know he wasn't, because during those days, WWF was kind of losing in the ratings, and they needed something. So that's where Stone Cold Steve Austin came into play. People loved him, and people were excited about Stone Cold. But over on the other channel, WCW, Hulk Hogan and the NWO, they were just dominating the company. And so I really like this figure, except for that. But I'm nitpicky. But after WCW went out of business, Hulk Hogan made his way back to the WWE, and he had a second really successful run with the WWE. And then Mattel, this is one of his regular Mattel figures. Now, Mattel's come up with several Hulk Hogan figures. I don't have any of those, because I don't really collect modern figures, but this is the one Hogan modern figure that I have. Then after he left the WWE, he had a run in TNA, which was debatable how good that run was. Some people think it was awful. I think it was pretty good. I actually was okay with Hulk Hogan's TNA run. And then he did this Australian wrestling tour where Ric Flair was there and blah, blah, blah. Anyway. But yeah, Hulk Hogan has been a big part of my life since the 80s. And I cannot deny that he is one of the biggest. He was my childhood hero. I can't deny it. I wanted to show you these. These are a pair of one of my Hulk Hogan socks. Now with this one, I actually have the other one. But I also have these. I have them in the Hollywood Hogan pair. Now currently I don't know where the other one of these is. But I certainly know where both of these are. These are awesome. I love these. And so, yeah, I got my Hogan poster. Hulkamania was definitely running wild in my life for a lot of years. And I can't deny that Hulk Hogan is the man, and some wrestling fans out there think that Stone Cold was the greatest wrestler of all time, or the greatest WWF wrestler of all time. I don't see that. I can't really agree with that, although I kind of know where they're coming from, but I don't really agree, because somebody like Vince McMahon, he's going by just the numbers, where the Austin 316 t-shirts outsold the Hulkamania shirts, and Steve Austin brought in a lot of money for the company, and I guess the numbers were higher than Hogan's numbers back in the 80s. But if you there's a lot of factors to consider. There really wasn't as much merchandise available in the 80s for Hulk Hogan. And it just, there was a lot more Austin merchandise available. Plus, I don't think Vince is counting the NWO stuff in WCW. So, I don't know. I don't know what, but anyway. But I also don't think that Stone Cold Steve Austin would have been as big as he got had it not been for Hulk Hogan paving the way. You know, after Hulk left, WWF kind of went into kind of a downward spiral. Business was down because the WWF didn't have a larger than life hero. I mean, they had Brett, but Brett really, and although I respect Brett, and I've made that known on this channel, but he really didn't have the larger than life explosive personality that Hogan did, and he didn't really have these big epic opponents that Hogan did. Brett didn't have really big epic opponents to work with. I mean, yeah, he had Yokozuna, and he had his brother Owen, but Hulk, you know, he had Andre the Giant, he had Macho Man Randy Savage, and he had the $1 Million Man. You know, he had all these big epic opponents. You know, King Kong Bundy, Big John Studd. He had all these big, larger than life personalities. And after he left, there really was kind of a void in the WWF. And that's why when he went to WCW, even though he didn't really have an explosive debut in WCW, you know, he really wasn't accepted by their fans as much because WCW fans, they were used to guys like Ric Flair. But then again, they had Sting, so they were used to Sting. But they really weren't as familiar with Hulk Hogan. I mean, they knew who he was, but to some WCW fans, oh, he's that guy that was on the other channel. He was that guy from that wrestling company up north. I mean, they knew the name, but anyway. But eventually they warmed up to him, but quickly his popularity fizzled out, which is why they turned him heel. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm rambling on. But anyway, Hulk Hogan. He just turned 70 years old. Like I've said before, running wild for 70 years. That's pretty amazing. And one of the greatest thrills of my life was back in 2015. My first wife and I were vacationing in Florida, and I actually got to visit Hulk Hogan's beach shop in Clearwater, Florida. I don't have any pictures on here. I'm sure I could probably find them on Facebook. I might share them with you, but yeah, I got to visit Hulk's beach shop. Hulk wasn't there that day, but it really doesn't matter. And this was before he opened the one in Orlando. He's got two. He's got one in Clearwater, which was the original. But now he's got one in Orlando, which someday I hope to visit. Actually, someday I hope to go to an autograph signing, so I can actually get this autographed. And I also would like to get this poster autographed. But nevertheless, Hulkamania still running wild. My guess is years after Hulk Hogan is gone, I'll still be celebrating Hulkamania because it was a huge, huge part of my childhood. And I'll never forget it. And I'll always be grateful to the Hulkster for being my hero when I was a kid. So Hulk Hogan, Hulkster, I salute you, sir. Thank you so much for the memories. And thank you so much for Hulkamania. I talk about him like he's dead. He's not dead. He's still very much alive, which I'm happy about. But anyway, thank you, Hulk Hogan. Thank you for Hulkamania. And that is going to do it for this video. Normally I film multiple videos at one time, but today I'm just going to do the one. And on my next video, I'm probably going to go back to maybe doing some top fives or whatever. But it's going to be fun either way. But anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. So if you're new here, you know where I'm going, don't you? Same thing as I always do. If you're new here, go ahead and like the video. Subscribe to the channel and share on social media if you want. And I will see you next time.